You know that moment when you feel the migraine starting, that kind of tightness creeping in your neck, the pressure building behind your eyes, that split second where you think, not today, please, not today. And you reach for the ibuprofen or the acetaminophen or whatever bottle is closest because you have a meeting in an hour, because your kid has a game tonight, or because you cannot miss another day. So you pop two pills, maybe three, maybe four if it's really bad, and you tell yourself, it's just ibuprofen. It's just over the counter. It's safe. But here's what I know. For many of you, you rely on over the counter meds because you have to ration your prescription medication. You only have 9 triptans a month, maybe 12, but you have way more than 9 migraines. So you try to use the over the counter stuff so that you can save the prescription for the days you think are going to be really bad, or the days when you absolutely have to function, when you can't afford to miss your work or disappoint your family. You know the over the counter meds, you know they're not great. You know they don't always do the job, but some relief is better than none, right? I'm Debbie Weidel, and today we are talking about something nobody wants to hear: how the thing you're using to save yourself might actually be keeping you stuck. This can kind of be a little uncomfortable to think about, but if you're tired of living in that pill bottle, then stick with me. Let's paint you a picture of what this actually looks like. So, Sarah came to me taking 800 milligrams of ibuprofen 4 times a day. That's 3,200 milligrams every single day. Now, she'd been doing this for 3 years. And I remember her telling me, I know it's a lot, but it's the only thing that keeps me functioning. I can't work without it. I can't be a mom without it. What else am I supposed to do? And here's kind of the thing that broke my heart. She thought that she was actually managing her migraines, but she wasn't managing anything. She was masking, which we know will never get to the root of the problem. Now, there is a massive difference between these two things. And understanding that difference, it really is the difference between staying stuck and getting free. Because here's what actually is happening in Sarah's body while she thought she was managing. Her stomach lining was being destroyed. She had developed something called gastritis, chronic inflammation of her stomach. She couldn't eat without feeling nauseous. And she was taking antacids on top of the ibuprofen just to deal with the side effects. Now, her kidneys were struggling. Her doctor had started monitoring her kidney function because long-term NSAID use, that's what ibuprofen is, can cause kidney damage, permanent kidney damage. Her liver enzymes were elevated. Her body was working overtime to process all those pills, and it was starting to fail. And the kicker, she was still getting migraines 4 to 5 times a week. Because when you're just masking the pain, you're not addressing what's causing it. You are putting a band-aid on a bullet wound and wondering why you're still bleeding. So let's talk about what over-the-counter medication what it can actually do in the short term. So when you take your ibuprofen or naproxen or whatever the over-counter is, they work by blocking an enzyme. And that enzyme is responsible for producing this, prostaglandins, which cause inflammation and pain. So yes, they reduce pain temporarily. When you take ibuprofen or naproxen or whatever over the counter you're taking, they work by blocking an enzyme called COX. And that enzyme is responsible for producing prostaglandins, which cause inflammation and pain. So yes, they reduce pain, but temporarily. But here's what else they do. They irritate your stomach lining every single time. They increase your risk of gastrointestinal bleeding. That means bleeding in your stomach or intestines that you might not even know is happening until it's serious. They can spike your blood pressure, which is ironic because a lot of women taking these medications are also dealing with high blood pressure from stress and inflammation. And here's the one thing that keeps women trapped. They can cause rebound headaches. You take the medication because you have a headache. The medication wears off. Your body responds by creating another headache. So you take more medication, which causes another rebound headache, which makes you take more medication. It's a cycle and it's vicious. One of my clients, Jennifer, was taking acetaminophen every single day, sometimes twice a day. And she said, I can't function without it. If I don't take it, the migraine's unbearable. And I mentioned to Jennifer, what if the acetaminophen is kind of causing the migraine? And she looked like I'd lost my mind. But we worked together to slowly reduce her intake. And you know what happened? For the first 2 weeks, as I expected, her migraines, they did get a little worse because her body was kind of shifting away from being used to taking that medication, almost like a little withdrawal from the over the counter. But by week 3, her migraines started spacing out. By week 6, she was having 2 migraines a month instead of 15. The medication wasn't helping her, it was trapping her. Back when I had daily migraines, I was living in the same trap. I was popping ibuprofen, almost like it was Tic Tacs. I had bottles everywhere, in my purse, in the car, in my desk drawer, in the bathroom, in the kitchen. And I kind of got a little panicky if I was running low. I'd kind of count how many were in the bottle and calculate if I had enough to get through the week. I had really no idea some days how many I was taking, but I know it was well over the recommended limit and it was almost daily. I also had prescription triptans, but I only had 9 and 9 pills for daily migraines. You do the math, so every single day I had to make a choice. Do I take the prescription today or do I save it for when the migraine gets really bad? Do I take the over the counter and just hope it's enough? Or do I use one of the triptans, right? This went through my head almost every single day. And when you're rationing prescription medication because you don't have enough to cover all your migraines, you end up relying on the over-the-counter meds way more than you should, even if they're not working that great, because any relief, as you know, is better than none. So you tell yourself, I'll just save the triptan for the really bad ones. I'll just take the ibuprofen for this one. But then you're taking ibuprofen or whatever your over-the-counter of choice is every single day, multiple times a day. And you don't even realize that you're poisoning yourself. Because here's what we don't talk about. All medication is toxic. I'm going to say that again. All medication is toxic. Now, sometimes, of course, the pros outweigh the cons, right? Sometimes you need the medication. Sometimes it's the right choice. Sometimes in the short term, it is going to give you the relief that you're looking for. But there's still a toxic component to it. And your body has to process it. Your liver has to filter it. Your kidneys have to eliminate it. And when you're taking it every single day, you're adding to your toxic load. And that toxic load is raising your inflammatory level and it's breaking down your inflammation network. And inflammation lowers your migraine threshold. So you end up in this horrible cycle where the medication that you're taking to stop your migraine is actually making you more susceptible to migraines. And that's what was happening to me. And that's what was happening to Sarah and Jennifer and maybe you. Now, let's talk about what happens when you do this for years, because a lot of women that I work with have been taking over-the-counter pain meds daily for 5, 10, 20 years. And they think it's just acetaminophen, it's just ibuprofen. How bad could it be? I can just get it over the counter. But here's how bad. Long-term use of NSAIDs significantly increase your risk of heart attack and stroke. The FDA has warnings about this, but nobody talks about it when you're buying a bottle at the drugstore. And you're probably not reading the little leaflet that comes with every single bottle of your over-the-counter medication or the warnings on the back. Or maybe you are, but you're in so much pain it doesn't matter. Long-term use can cause chronic kidney disease. I've had clients whose doctors have told them, if you don't stop taking ibuprofen, you are going to need dialysis. Long-term use destroys your gut lining. And when your gut is damaged, you can't absorb nutrients properly, which means even if you're eating well, you're taking supplements, your body's not getting what it needs, which keeps inflammation high, which causes more migraines. Do you see the cycle? And then there's the cost. And I know over the counters, we're not talking that they're hundreds of dollars a bottle. But if you think about Sarah, she was spending $25 a month on ibuprofen, plus $30 on antacids to deal with the stomach issue, plus co-pays for doctor's visits to monitor her kidney function, plus the cost of missing work when the migraine got so bad the medication couldn't touch them anymore. And over 3 years, just in this area, she spent over $2,500 just managing the side effects of medication that wasn't even working. But the real cost, missing her daughter's dance recital because she had a migraine so severe she couldn't get out of bed. She had run out of triptans. She had to use the over the counters, and they didn't work. She canceled a weekend trip with her husband because she was too nauseous from the medication to travel. And she stopped making plans with her friends because she never knew if she'd be able to show up. That's the cost nobody talks about. You're not just losing money, you're losing your life. Now, before you panic and think I'm telling you to throw away every bottle in your medicine cabinet, hold on, because here's the thing. Over-the-counter pain medication, it's not evil. It's a tool. And like any tool, it can be used well or it can be used poorly. The problem isn't that you're taking ibuprofen or acetaminophen occasionally. The problem is when you're taking it daily because your body's screaming at you and you're ignoring what it's trying to tell you. That's where the problem is, right? So let me give you a different scenario. My client Rachel, she used to take acetaminophen every single day, multiple times a day. And after working together for about 4 months, she went through the Freedom from Migraine Method protocol in this time period. She addressed her gut health, she reset her sleep, she identified her inflammatory triggers, she calmed her nervous system. And now she has like one or two migraines a month, maybe. And when she feels one coming on, she takes two ibuprofen and it works because her body isn't inflamed 24/7 anymore, because she's not masking chronic inflammation with daily medication, because she addressed the root cause. So when she does occasionally need some pain relief, her body actually responds to it and in small doses. Can you imagine just taking two ibuprofen or two acetaminophen and actually having it work, like to end the migraine? That's the difference. When you use the over the counter medication sparingly, when you know why you're taking it, and you're not just using it to cover up a problem that you're ignoring, it can actually do its job. Rachel told me that she used to feel like a failure every time she took a pill, like she was broken and couldn't fix herself. But now, when she takes the ibuprofen once or twice a month, she knows it's not because she's broken. She knows it's because she's human. And sometimes humans need a little help, and that's okay. That's the mindset shift. You're not using medication to survive. You're using it occasionally to support a body that's healing. Now, let me tell you what Sarah said to me 6 months after we started working together. She was sitting in my office, well, on Zoom. I was in my office. She was somewhere very far away, but we were on Zoom. And she actually started getting quite emotional. She said, when I woke up this morning and I realized I hadn't taken ibuprofen in 3 weeks, 3 weeks, she hadn't even noticed. She just didn't need it. And then she paused and said something I'll never forget. And I wrote it down so I could tell you. I forgot what it felt like to wake up without my stomach hurting. I forgot what it felt like to not be afraid of food. And I forgot what it felt like to trust my body. Now, her kidney function, it normalized. Her stomach, it healed. Her migraines went from 4 times a week to once or twice a month. And she is still working on her healing. And when she does get a migraine now, she can try one ibuprofen, maybe two. And it works because her body isn't drowning in inflammation anymore. Now, Jennifer, the one who was taking acetaminophen every day, she told me something similar. She said, I used to think the medication was saving me, but it was actually keeping me a prisoner. I was so afraid of the pain that I never stopped to ask why the pain was there in the first place. And that's the question I want you to ask yourself. Why is the pain there? What is your body trying to tell you? Because the pain isn't the enemy. Pain is actually information. And when you mask it every single day, you're silencing the alarm while your house is still on fire. So here's what I need you to understand. If you are taking over-the-counter pain medication every day or even multiple times a week, you are not getting to the root cause of your migraines. You're just surviving them. And there is a difference between surviving and thriving. Surviving is popping 4 acetaminophen at 6 a.m. so you can make it through your morning meeting. Thriving is waking up without scanning your body for warning signs. Surviving is carrying a bottle of acetaminophen in every purse, every car, every drawer, just in case. Thriving is making plans without fear. Surviving is taking that pill to mask pain while your stomach, your kidneys, and your liver pay the price. But thriving is addressing the root cause so that your body heals and you only need medication occasionally when it can actually do its job. Over-the-counter medication, it isn't inherently bad, but there are still toxic components to any medication. That's just a fact, and that fact matters because every toxin that you put in your body raises your inflammatory load, and inflammation lowers your migraine threshold. So yes, sometimes the pros outweigh the cons. Sometimes you need some extra help. You need that medication, but you need to take it knowing the consequences, and you need to address why you need it in the first place. Because if you don't, you're just adding fuel to the fire. So here's what I want you to do. If you're listening to this and you're thinking, that's me, I'm taking over-the-counter meds every single day and I don't know how to stop, I want you to know something. You do not have to do this alone. And you do not have to go cold turkey and suffer through withdrawals without support. There is a way to reduce your dependency on medication while addressing what's actually causing your migraines. I've created a free resource called the Toxic Migraine Triggers Guide, and it walks you through the hidden inflammatory triggers that are keeping your migraines alive, including the toxins in your medication, your environment, and your everyday life. And this guide is going to show you exactly how toxins lower your migraine threshold by raising inflammation and what you can actually do about it. Now, you can grab the guide in the show notes super quick. Just click the link, put your name in. It'll go right to your email inbox. Make sure you check spam and promotions just in case you haven't opened an email from me in a while, because it might be hiding in there. Just drag it over into your inbox so that you've whitelisted it and you'll be good, because you deserve migraine freedom.